It's amazing sometimes how life can seem so random. The people that come in and out of your life, the things that happen, the good things, the bad things. It's incredible to me how sometimes it just seems like things are happening all around us. Once you get some hindsight and once you get some water under the bridge, it's always a beautiful thing to look back on your life and to see that, man, all those things happened so that God could bring you closer to Him. When I think of part of the plan, I think that that's what it's all about, is being mindful of how God is bringing His plan into fruition for our life. I remember walking into a gym in March of the year 2000. Didn't know that going to an event that I didn't even know was a church service would change my life forever. I'd been invited to this event by a friend of mine, and when I walked in, it was the first time that I'd ever seen people singing songs and worship music in my entire life. And the reason why I went to the event is a guy named Daryl Scott was speaking. And his daughter was Rachel Scott. She had died in the Columbine shootings that previous year. And at the very end of his talk, he says, hey, raise your hand if you felt something like you've never felt before. To be honest, I was a little weirded out by the whole language. I was a little weirded out by the whole context, and yet something in me felt like it was right. But I didn't go up there, and my hand stayed up. And after a while of my hand staying raised, but me not going down, a guy named Ryan comes up and taps me on the shoulder. And when he tapped me on the shoulder, he said, hey, I'll take you up there if you want me to. And at 17 years old, man, that was all I needed. And I remember going up with Ryan and listening to these guys talk about the decision that I was making. I remember grabbing their hands and praying and asking Christ to change my life. And I remember talking to Ryan afterwards, and he says, hey, where do you go to school, or what do you do? And told him I was a junior in high school. And asked me if I'd be interested in him taking me out to lunch and talking about the decision that I had made. And I said, yeah, man, that'd be great. Remember the next day he brought me a book called 50 Days to a Firm Foundation and brought me my first Bible. And the book was kind of a daily devotional, and I'd never had a daily devotional before. And I remember reading it, and him and I were talking about it. And so for the next 50 days, we would read the book and we would talk about the book, and sometimes we'd talk on the phone, sometimes we'd hang out in person. And to be honest, I remember meeting with Ryan and thinking, man, this is like my very own Yoda. I mean, he has all the answers to all my questions, and I remember being blown away. Shortly thereafter, I started hanging out with Ryan. I walked into this church called Puyallup Foursquare, and I met a pastor named Roger Archer. And Roger really became like a dad to me. And I remember when I walked into the church was about a year old. It was a little over 100 people going to the church. And I started meeting with Roger. And after doing the 50 Days to a Firm Foundation book, Ryan and I talked. And what was crazy is that was literally the last time that I had talked to Ryan. Yeah, man, I remember coming home that night from PLU after I gave my heart to Christ, and all kind of just out of sorts, and I don't know what decision I just made, but I remember coming home, and this is where my parents and I were living at the time, and we had just kind of grew up in Tacoma, and then we moved to Puyallup over the last couple of years. And so yeah, man, it was amazing. I remember coming home and talking to my parents about the decision I made, and they were pretty weirded out. They were kind of weren't fully sure of, what was going on with their son, but I remember this is the house right here. And I remember going out in our backyard here and prayed by myself for the very first time and asked God to use my life. Yeah, man, it was amazing. It's crazy. It seems like Long time ago. It's amazing how God works, how he always brings the people in your life or brings the circumstances in your life that you so desperately need. And Roger really became, like I said, a dad to me. And it was I went on staff at the church in my mid-20s and worked there at the church and really changed my life. And Roger and I continue to talk to this day, but I'd always wondered what happened to Ryan, and we had never really connected. And I don't know, a part of me, I think, liked the mystery of it. I think a part of me liked the fact that we hadn't talked. And what was amazing is actually this last March, I was having a study day, so I wasn't in the office, and I got a text message from Matt Higgins. And so I remember driving in as fast as I could to get to the church. And I thought a couple of things. One is I hope someone's not playing a joke on me, because I've told the Ryan story in many different environments when I was preaching. And two, I remember thinking, man, I hope that there's a picture of his family. I hope that I'd love to see him, and I'd love to to see what he looks like. And I want to share the letter, and this is what was in the letter. I opened up the letter, and there were 2 checks, and there was indeed a picture of his family. And this is what his letter said. It said, Andrew, I've been meaning to send you a note of encouragement for some time. About a year ago, someone who heard you teach reached out to my wife and asked if we knew each other. Imagine that. I'm so encouraged by what God has done in your life. When you're back in the Northwest sometime, I'd love to catch up, and I'd love to introduce you to my family, especially my 17-year-old son. He's getting ready to head into his senior year, and I think he faces many of the same questions and challenges you did back when our lives crossed paths almost 20 years ago. Anyway, enclosed are 2 checks from our family. One to help support your church there in Florida, and a second one to maybe help fund a trip back to the Northwest so you and your wife can connect with old friends and family. If there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's that long-term friendships are invaluable. Blessing, my friend. Ryan. Well, we are cruising down the road just across the bridge from Tacoma into Gig Harbor. And we're on our way right now to Ryan's house. Cannot wait to see him and surprise him. This is amazing. Cannot wait to meet him, to meet his family. This dude changed my life. Is this the Ryan residence? What's up, man?
What is this? Wait a second. I was just texting you,
How's
bro.
it going? Good to see you, man. How good did that work out?
I feel like I just saw you.
How good did that work out? Yes, isn't that great? I thought you knew when you started texting. All right, so it's March of 2000, and I'm at this event. Daryl Scott is speaking, and went to the event. I didn't know it was a church service. I got tricked. And then I remember this guy did not know who was you, tapped me on the shoulder, and he said, yeah, I'll take you up there if you want me to.
Yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit about that, on why you would do that, what you were thinking when you do that. Is that something you like normally do? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I've been to many type events where there'd be an altar call, and I had gone up before with people and prayed with them and done that thing, and done what I would say, get their fire insurance prayer.
Gotcha.
Right. But for whatever reason that night, and it's not something I've had done before or have even done since, and there's no other way to say it. I just felt prompted to go over and tap you on the shoulder. So my thing with you, when I met you, Andrew, was that it was clear to me in the prayer time that you wanted more, that you were ready, that the Spirit had moved in your life and you were ready. And I didn't have a clue. I did not know what to do with that.
Right.
Any more than the other guys praying with you. But I did have a friendship I could offer you. And I did feel like, look, he needs more. He's ready to be restored. I mean, I remember you saying, you were just like leaning forward going, okay, I'm ready. I want to give up this. I want to give up my addictions. I want to give up this. I want to stop these behaviors. I'm in.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't even know how to do this. Honestly, after you said yes, let's keep hanging out, I ran back to somebody else and said, what do I do? And somebody else gave me the book that we've talked about, the 50 Days to Discipleship or whatever it was called, right?
Yeah.
it was tough because for me, from my perspective, we did that. I don't know, how long did we meet? Maybe a month or something?
Yeah, a little over a month. Yeah, yeah.
And then I felt like I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure if I'd done my job.
Right.
I felt like I dropped the ball,
totally.
Toward the end, because it wasn't this clean handoff of now, Andrew, let's go.
Right.
Introduce you to this next person in your journey.
Right.
It's amazing to now hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
That part of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because that's what's been so fun is that we got to catch up after almost 20 years. That's crazy to think. Crazy. Almost 20 years of life passing by. You're so old school. You sent me a letter. That was beautiful. That was amazing.
Snail mail.
And so it's amazing when you think, man, I kind of felt like, man, I failed. I look back and I'm like, man, that saved my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been an amazing kind of journey, and I'm so grateful. One, that you had the faith and were led to step out and to tap a young man on the shoulder and walked him down, because when I tell the story, that's what I say. I say, man, honestly, at that stage and at that moment, that's literally all I needed. And I think for me, that just again, I just can't thank you enough, and I'm so grateful that we've kind of finally got to reconnect.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much. Grace City is what it is because of the decision you made. We've had over 2,500 people give their heart to Christ in just a few short years that we've existed as a church. And it all started with a seed that you planted in the heart of a 17-year-old.
Yeah, man, I think one of the craziest things about just driving around and hanging with these people that made such an impact in my life and going to these places, high schools and where I got saved and things like that, is you just always think how God uses just everything. He uses everything as part of his plan to bring us to the things that he wants to bring us to and to have us do the things that he is asking us to do. And whenever you reflect and think back, it's crazy to think about how all this stuff, all your background, your whole life brings you right to where God wants you, and he uses everything. He uses the good stuff, the bad stuff, the highs and the lows. It's just incredible how he uses all that stuff. Just kind of brings you right where he wants you.